Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Finish It Friday. We've got a brief video today. I want to talk about something that is very timely and something that if you have the need, you should act on now or very soon. We'll be right back and I'll have the details for you. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Oh hi, welcome back. I'm just working on some chain stitching of some little tiny blocks, and let me tell you, I think my first mistake was instead of making long strips and sewing them together and then cutting them apart, I made the mistake of taking the instructions in the booklet on this project very literally, and I actually cut a bunch of these. And when I say a bunch of them, I think there were 96 of the red ones and 96 of the white ones. I sure could have saved myself some time if I had done it the way I originally thought I was going to. But they're cut now, so I just have to move on. But as I was up here sitting working on this today, another thought occurred to me. It's back to school time. And that means that back to school supplies are on sale at your local stores. Whether you buy things at a local Walmart or a department store like a Target, or if you're picking up a few things here and there from the grocery store, they all have some great deals on certain products. And you know what? We use a lot of those things right here in the studio. So if you have the need for some of those supplies, now's the time to buy it. Think about, are you running low? Will you need this over the next 6 months? And if you think you will, buy it now while it's on sale. Now, depending on the part of the country you're in and when your school starts, the sales could get even better. But you also run the risk of supplies running out. I've seen that before. There have been some years that I bought supplies at back to school time and waited until they went on clearance, and they were practically giving them away. I don't see that so much anymore, but you will get a better deal buying it now versus buying it 3 or 4 months from now, or you may not find it at all. And what you're probably thinking, well, what kind of school supplies am I going to use in a sewing studio? Scissors, and I'm not talking about really good quality scissors for your fabrics, but I'm talking about everyday scissors. You really need a you really need a really good pair of utility scissors to cut paper and mylar and things like that in your sewing room, so that you don't use your really good scissors for this. This is a great pair of Westcotts. I don't remember where these came from, but they're a really nice heavy pair that work really well. Then the #1 tool that I use in the sewing room is a pencil. And not just one pencil, but I'd say buy at least a dozen of these things. And you ask me why? Well, this one that I picked out is a great example. There's practically no eraser on it. And the point, well, I'd be kind of hard-pressed to get a line out of this one because it's so dull. And if you're going to get a pencil, you're also going to need some kind of pencil sharpener, because we might need to make lines on fabric for diagonal seams. We may need to write on papers to identify what fabrics we have and what projects we're using them on. We might want to take notes on a project we're working on. I have from time to time kept a little notebook when I'm working on a project to make notes, especially if it's something really complicated or convoluted where I'm using different seams or different threads on different parts of it, just to keep track. But there's all kinds of supplies out there right now to look at as far as your quilting supplies. A lot of people use the washable Crayola markers for marking their quilting. I've personally never done that, but there are enough people talking about it that it must be successful, at least for some things. So I would take a look into that as well. Pens, tape, erasers. Ooh, a good eraser. I like a good white eraser when I work on things, and there are some brands that are better than others, but any white eraser is going to be better than a pencil top or red eraser. And usually, sometimes they're referred to as art erasers. Let me look in my drawer here to see what other kind of goodies you might need that you can find in the back to school supply aisle. Let's see, you probably won't find a tape measure, but you might find a pen or an X-Acto knife. Now that's kind of a fancy one, but you get the point. Glue sticks. We use a lot of glue sticks sometimes when we're doing EPP. I don't use these too much for regular EPP, but if I'm working on a special shape or something that has an inverted curve, I use these. Depending on the store you go to, you might find chalk markers. And I use chalk markers to mark on my cutting board if I'm trying to lay out a bunch of pieces for a quilt block. Sometimes I'll put them on the chalkboard, on the cutting board, flipped over, with a chalk marker indicating what it is. Is it A, B, C, or D? Because when you're working with these pieces and you're pulling them off and sewing them together, sometimes it's really easy for it to be confused. I also use a chalk marker for something else that I'm very reliant on, and that is my machine and keeping track of the stitches that I'm using. I have a piece of chalkboard tape attached to the front of my machine, and I use this to keep track of the stitch length and width. Another thing that might be helpful for you is dry erase markers. I have a little board in my room here that I use a dry erase marker to tell me what I need to work on next, and that way you can keep a little better track of what you're doing. So we've talked about a lot of things that might be useful in your quilting that you can find in school supplies. Tape, colored pencils are another one. So many options, so many things that might be helpful to you. So if you have a moment to get out and shop those back to school sales, I would recommend that you do it. Take a thorough inventory of what you have on hand, and then you'll be able to purchase just what you need when supplies are high and hopefully prices are low. This time of the year, you may also find great bargains on organizing supplies. This time and first of the year are the two times that I see the prices really come down on those products, whether it be a multi-bin container like I have back here, or just the plastic bins that you might put on your desk. You might hold pencils in, you might have a magazine holder that you want to keep your nice pattern books in. So many choices. So stroll those aisles and see what might be helpful to you. Now, as far as the Finish It Friday task, I have a lot of things I'm working on today, and I'll be honest with you, it's been a really unproductive week in the studio because of some family events we had going on and other things that needed to be taken care of. But I am working on a project right now where I have all these little squares to sew, and I'm trying to kind of get ahead of the game. You know, quilting is one of those things that takes a lot of time because usually in a pattern there's a lot of little pieces and they all need your attention, whether you're sewing on a machine, you're sewing by hand. whatever the situation is for that particular project. And trying to capture that project enough on film for a video presentation is difficult because nobody really wants to sit and watch me sew 96 squares together. So a lot of that sewing happens in the background or behind the scenes, off camera. So that's what I'm working on today. I did a really quick pickup of the studio yesterday, but it really needs a nice, like hour and a half, 2-hour adventure in here to get things organized and back in control. I find that when I finish a project, and we've just finished Barnstar in the last week or so, that once I kind of get it finished and I'm ready to put it away, there's still all those pieces of fabric that were left over. They may have been cut in error. They may have been cut-offs from what we were doing, and I'm just struggle to figure out what I want to do with it. I kind of want to put all those materials to the side and hold on to them for a while because I still need to sandwich and quilt those projects and bind them. And many times the binding material is coming out of what I have. So I don't want to really release them into my fabric inventory to be used for other things. I'm kind of being protective of them, at least initially. And what I find is sometimes these projects go on and on from the time I finish the piecing to the point where I'm ready to put it on a bed and say it's done. And I have a couple that even though the quilt itself is done, there are still some things I want to work with, some accessories. I might want to make a decorative pillowcase or a throw pillow to go with it, something. And I just find myself hesitant. And that's where I am with Barnstar. I'm looking over there and I can see all the fabric that went with Barnstar, and it's beginning to get mixed in with some other projects that I'm working on. And it's kind of making me nervous, a little bit of anxiety there with that. So I really need to tackle that and just put all those fabrics from Barnstar together and fold them together. Maybe even take a little string or ribbon or something and tie them together and put them away until I'm ready to completely be done with it. And those other projects that are done and they've been sitting there waiting so long on that accessory, I really need to get working on that, don't I? So that's something that I'm going to need to be thinking about. Now, as far as Barnstar, I was going to jump in and quilt Barnstar right away, but I've kind of had a change of heart. I am going to quilt our Blue Star first. If you recall, our Blue Star was a 2-color quilt. It's a little smaller than Barnstar, and I want something that I can start with and get it done. And I have a feeling that Barnstar may be one of those projects that we start on and it goes on and on, just simply because it's has a lot of design elements in it. It's going to need some more custom quilting design around those elements, especially if I decide to hand quilt it. And Blue Star, I think, is something that we can get through pretty quickly. It has a lot of, well, it's all the same design. It's just 2 different blocks. So it will go quick. Once you get that pattern in one block, you can repeat it in other blocks, and that helps it go along a little faster. I was disappointed. I thought I would be able to put Blue Star on my quilting frame and not have to use it at full size. But the more I look at it, and I'm looking at the size of the poles that are available for that Grace Easy 3, it looks like it's either a small wall hanging size, it's a baby or a throw quilt size, or it's what they call queen size. And there doesn't seem to be anything in between that throw and that queen size. I really wish there were. So I'm going to be working on that one first, and I think that's going on either on the frame or being sandwiched and ready for a hoop this weekend or early next week. That's where we are. I'm working on this mystery project for Christmas quilt. I don't know if you could tell by the red and white or not. And I need to work on our design a quilt today as well. It might be a really busy day, but we'll see how things go. I hope you've enjoyed today. It's a little different concept of what we're doing, and this format will evolve depending on what's going on in the studio that week. But I have provided today, I think, with some tips that might be helpful for you, and some pointers about maybe what you should be looking for if you're out shopping. If you're someone like me who doesn't go into the back to school sections very often, it's a good reminder that that's a good place to stop and see what might be handy for you. It's amazing to me, even the things I use around the house that I can get at the back to school section, and now's the time to shop, to stock up. I hope you've enjoyed today. I want to inspire you, if I can, to get out there and sew a little bit every day if you can, but if you can't, do it when you can. It's a little way to relax your brain, to relax your body, and to do a little bit of something that we enjoy. Thanks for stopping by today. If you can, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Be sure to subscribe and share it with a friend. You know, it's surprising. The more views we get, the more views we get. And the bigger it gets and the bigger it gets. And when you're not watching and you're not thumbs upping and sharing it, then we kind of flounder out there, and the exposure to new folks and new ideas kind of flounders as well too. So I would appreciate the support you can give us simply by giving us a thumbs up or sharing the video and subscribing. It doesn't cost anything. We'll see you next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye!